Isn't it interesting how much the antiques are still influencing our life today? For example, take the US Standard Railroad gauge, which is the distance between the rails. It is 4 feet and 8.5 inches. That's a weird number. Like, why not 5 feet? At least 4 feet and 8 inches. Well, there's actually a pretty simple reason for this. You see, the first US railroads were designed by British engineers, so naturally they just stuck to their own system. And no, this number is not because of the conversion from metric to freedom units, but rather because the British railroads were built in the same way tram tracks were. And the tram tracks were made with this gauge because it was made with the measurement of horse wagons. And these wagons had that specific wheel gauge because that was the best for the old British roads. Now here's where the antiques gets involved. Because the old roads of Britain weren't built by the British, they were built by the Romans. And the Romans built their roads to accommodate the war chariot. Now the war chariot was made for Imperial Rome, and as such there was a standard wheel gauge of 4 feet and 8.5 inches. But we're just getting to the good part now, because the reason for this weird number was because the chariot was to be drawn by 2 horses. And the chariot therefore needed to be as wide as 2 horsebacks. And here's the kicker. 2 horse rears are literally directly responsible for the way we get into space. No, really. Have you ever looked at the space shuttle and thought, why are the rocket boosters so thin? Oh, you haven't? Well, anyway, if they were wider, they would actually be more effective. But they can't be, because these boosters are built by Thiokol at their factory in Utah, and the boosters therefore have to be transported from Utah to NASA, and this is done by train. And I don't know if you've ever seen Utah, but that train are gonna have to go through the mountains. So the boosters has to fit through the tunnels, and those tunnels were made to fit the trains running on the standard US railroad gauge. So a major part of the space shuttle design was literally determined over 2,000 years ago by the width of a horse's arse.